All right, you guys, good morning. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's try to make some sense out of this mess that's been going on over the last 48 hours. I'm sure that you've heard bits and pieces of the rumors and the reports and Trump and Epstein and the files. We're going to try to put it all together today and put together as much of the information as possible and try to make sense of all this. Try to figure out what it is exactly that people are upset about and boil it down to one statement, which I believe sums it all up. We now have Democrats defending Trump. You guys, this is like some Twilight Zone stuff. There are more victims coming forward, and Trump is doubling down with his 179th day of the year Golden Age tweet. So let's get started with this bizarre tweet first, which I told you guys these days of the year mean something, right? And you're noticing this now. Remember, 5 years ago, nobody was talking about days of the year, were they? But here we are. The president from the White House tweets out, "You just stepped into day 179 of the Trump Golden Age. Make it rain, make it rain, make it rain." Now, there's a song track playing in the background. We're not going to play that. Let's actually mute that just for copyright. But it's clear what this is about. This is about AI. AI is the rain. Now, they're not coming out and saying this, but the whole golden age is about AI. Now, take a look at this because this is bizarre, you guys. Now, remember, Trump's face was printed on money. There was like a goat who was given as a gift, and he put it in Mar-a-Lago, and it had money, had his face on it. Now, I can't tell what's on the face of this money. It looks weird. Like, I can't really tell what this is. I mean, it could be a face, but it almost looks like a person on there, like a fetus or something, but it's kind of blurry. Let's see if we can. Well, that it's at the highest video quality. And people are saying this is really cringy, and absolutely it is, but there's something more to this. I'm just scrolling this forward and backwards. You've got this golden light coming out of the center of the White House here, the golden beam going up to heaven with the eagle's head at the center of it. I mean, this is just crazy with all this money flying around. And it's like, this is supposed to be heaven. And then the fireworks popping off. Now, this just released on July 17th. Normally, there are no fireworks happening this time of year. I mean, we passed the 4th of July. There's something about fireworks that they're talking about here that's coming. Now, we saw this whole firework thing in iPad Goat 2, but this is the Golden Eagle. This is the Golden Age. Money, money, money for everybody. Everybody's talking about the tariffs and how many billions and trillions of dollars that we're supposed to get. But still, there's no huge tax breaks. The cost of goods has gone up. But there's something deeper to this because we all know who the Rain Man is, don't we? The Rain Man is the devil. And the fact that they said day 179 actually means something. What am I talking about? Day 179 is also the birthday of the Antichrist in Rosemary's Baby. Now, Trump's talking about something different here. This is day 179 of the presidency, right? So, presidency started on January 20th, but we all know what they were getting at. The 179th day of the year is the Antichrist birthday in Rosemary's Baby. Who was the Antichrist in Rosemary's Baby? Are you ready for this? I'm going to type it out for you. Adrian. And what is Adrian scrambled? rain. AD. What the heck is going on? Adrian, make it rain. AD. Now, why Anno Domini? Well, the whole calendar is based off of Jesus being born. So the Antichrist would want to replace that, wouldn't they? You can't make this up, you guys. Now, we also know that Elon Musk's birthday is June 28th. So, what is exactly happening here? I guess we're going to have to wait and find out. But they are signaling so much with this occult stuff that we are finding. Now we've got Democrats coming to Trump's aid to defend him. And this is how you know anytime you get a bipartisan effort, Democrats defending Trump. Because remember, MAGA seemed to have turned on Trump. So now the both sides are going to come together now. Bipartisan. Stephen King, torn apart for eyebrow raising Epstein take. This guy. Now remember, he's the writer of It, the Clown. So he's defending the clown. Says here, Stephen King seemed surprisingly to side, he's probably on the list, with Donald Trump's administration about Jeffrey Epstein's client list on Tuesday, to the shock of his fans. A platform he once vowed to leave in protest to Elon Musk's takeover. He still posts on X. The Epstein client list is real, so is the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus, is what he said. Wow. Unbelievable. Now, Trump has gone on a firing spree, and he's flushing the toilet on prosecutors involved in the Epstein and Diddy case. If you haven't heard that by now, Comey just flushed the toilet on Comey, the daughter of the other Comey, dismissed. U.S. federal prosecutor Maureen Comey, who was involved in high-profile investigations into Epstein and Diddy, has been dismissed from her position. Reason for this dismissal was not immediately clear. Maureen Comey, daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, had worked on the federal cases against Epstein. James Comey was fired in 2017. So Trump is flushing the toilet, tying up the loose ends. And what else do we have? Well, check this out. Where did that story go? Trump is bragging about his great uncle, John Trump. And he starts referring to him as the one who taught the Unabomber. Let's read this. President Donald Trump claimed Tuesday that his uncle, John Trump, taught Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, terrorists who used mail bombs to kill his victims. Now, I don't believe the Unabomber was real. I think that was a whole patsy situation. I believe that was our own government doing this. The tangent occurred while he was speaking at the Pennsylvania Energy and Innovation Summit and appeared to be prompted by a discussion on artificial intelligence. Now, this is important. I have to brag for a second, he said, because when I first heard about AI, it's not my thing. Although my uncle was at MIT, one of the great professors, 51 years, whatever, longest serving professor in the history of MIT. Kaczynski was one of his students. Do you know who Kaczynski was? There's very little difference between a madman and a genius, he added. So they went and fact checked Trump, of course, and a lot of what he said wasn't true or couldn't have possibly been true. We haven't heard Trump's side of it yet. But it says Kaczynski never attended MIT. He studied at Harvard and University of Michigan, or so they say. You see, they never tell us the full story. Maybe he did study in MIT, but they're not going to tell us that, right? Trump claimed his uncle knew the mathematics prodigy turned terrorist recluse. However, I said, what kind of student was he, Uncle John? Dr. John Trump, the president, claimed Tuesday. He said, "What kind of student?" Man, he said, "Seriously good." He'd go around correcting everybody, but it didn't work out too well for him. Didn't work out too well. Kaczynski anonymously mailed and hand delivered homemade bombs to people across the country from 78 to 95, blah, 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 right? But here's where they caught Trump in a lie here. Because it says Trump's comments Tuesday appear to be unsubstantiated. However, as his uncle died in 85, a decade before Kaczynski was linked to the then anonymous bombings. So either his uncle knew who this bomber was before everybody else did in 85, right? So there the plot thickens. So Trump could have been telling the truth, but why wasn't this released to the public? And then a decade later, they finally caught the guy. So it says it seems unlikely the discussion Trump referenced would have occurred. And his uncle was not the longest serving professor at MIT. So they're fact checking Trump here. So this is crazy. It's almost as if Trump is coming unglued with all this stuff. Now, of course, Musk jumps in, Elon Musk, and jumping on the bandwagon here with his own Twitter attack on Trump. Elon Musk blows a major hole in Trump Epstein's hoax theory. And all this has been flushed out because Trump has now admitted that there are files and there is information that they're holding back. But back when this story broke on Wednesday, people weren't so sure because Trump just flat out said there's nothing else to see here. Move along. Elon Musk went on posting spree Wednesday to slam President Trump's claim that the so-called Epstein files are a lefty-created hoax. World's richest man, still just months removed from being Trump's first buddy before their explosive breakup, pointed out that Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand woman, Ghislaine Maxwell, remains in federal prison. Wow, amazing that Epstein killed himself and Ghislaine is in federal prison for a hoax. Musk wrote, blowing a hole in Trump's claim. Musk raged minutes later that not a single Epstein client has been prosecuted, adding not even one. Now, this is why people are upset. And we're going to have a little bit of discussion on this as soon as I get through these stories. People are upset because no one else went to jail. And we know they have the evidence. So what are they hiding? Musk posted about Epstein 13 times, just over an hour. On Wednesday, all of his posts included criticism of Trump or agreed with his critiques on the president's handling of self-inflicted Epstein headache. So many powerful people want the list suppressed, Musk wrote in response to one tweet. So, what else is going on? Well, then there's this Wall Street Journal story. This brings us up to a little bit more recently. Trump is now going to sue the Wall Street Journal. Why? Because they released a birthday letter that went to Ghislaine Maxwell for, I believe it was for Epstein, his 50th birthday. She was going to put it in some album. And they haven't shown us the letter, but they describe it to us. This is crazy, you guys. And Trump saying the letter doesn't exist. And Rupert Murdoch is like, he runs the Wall Street Journal. And he's like, bring it. Bring the lawsuit. We've got good evidence and we're going to double down. Let's take a look here, you guys. Let's read this article. President Trump said Thursday he would sue the Wall Street Journal and its owner over a new bombshell report about his relationship with Epstein. Based on a ridiculous amount of publicity given to Epstein, I have asked Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce any and all pertinent grand jury testimony. So now he's saying, oh, now let's release the Kraken. We all know that they were probably just buying more time to redact and remove all of the stuff connected to Trump. They're even now saying that they did, in fact, tell the people that were looking into the case to flag anything with Donald Trump's name on it. There's a memo out that says this. So they were literally saying, oh, let's flag all this stuff so we can scrub it, with no intentions of bringing it out to the public. So this is the definition of a cover-up. And Trump is doubling down, calling it a scam on the Democrats because that is the go-to play, right? Always revert back to the right-left paradigm. Let's see what was in this racy birthday letter. Now, apparently, they came to Trump and told him about the letter, and Trump told him it was fake, but they published it anyway. Wow. Let's see if they describe this letter here. Oh, Vance comes to his defense as well. It's just one big chaos show, isn't it? All right, let's get down to this. Oh, gosh, look at this. Look how long this article is. Okay, let's get down to the letter. Oh, they're not going to show us in this article, are they? Letter. Wonder if I have another story pulled up on it. Basically, it was a draw, like a lewd drawing. It says in its report, which alleged Trump sent a lewd birthday card to the disgraced financier and sex offender. The journal wrote that the president reached by phone and denied writing the letter, threatened to sue the outlet. He called it a fake thing, a fake Wall Street Journal story. So Trump says it was fake, and here we are all the way down in the article, and they still won't describe the letter. But here's the thing. Of course, they're going to leak the truth through people that are already defeated, like the left, Gavin Newsom, governor of California, because he was the one that actually showed that Trump, in fact, does do drawings. Because Trump's like, I don't do drawings. I've never drawn a picture in my life. And then Gavin Newsom shows up with this image of an actual Trump drawing that he auctioned off of the New York skyline. So lies. Let's see if this article describes the letter. Oh, let's see here. Here's Trump's drawing. Oh, I don't draw anything. And then there's Trump's drawing with his signature on it. And that's actually not a bad drawing, is it? So he totally could have written this letter to Epstein for his 50th birthday, but no one can still produce the letter. What a mess. Now, then what else do we have here? Then we have Elon Musk doing a 180-degree turn. This was just a couple days ago. Now defending Trump on the Wall Street Journal hit piece on the letter. So then now they're saying also MAGA is defending Trump again on this. You guys, this is just one big show. Elon Musk rushed to Donald Trump's defense after the damning Wall Street Journal report detailed the lewd birthday letter. Let's see if this article describes it. Wow. Happy birthday. Oh, here's the letter. And may every day be another wonderful secret. So he was basically in the letter confirming the whole trafficking thing. Oh, it's all a big secret. The message read, according to the newspaper, the report states the text is surrounded by a drawing of a naked woman, punctuated by a squiggly Donald, mimicking pubic hair. Oh my gosh. Hours after the report released, the president's former first buddy said, it really doesn't sound like something Trump would say, to be honest. Wow. I don't draw pictures of women, he told the journal. It's not my language. It's not my words. I never wrote a picture in my life, Trump said. And that was debunked, of course, by Gavin Newsom. Now, the victims are coming out and they're saying that the way this whole thing is being handled is very insensitive, erasing all the work that was done to expose the largest trafficking network in U.S. history. Epstein victims say the Trump administration handling the case adds to their anguish. They feel, as one of Jeffrey Epstein's victims put it, like they're being erased. So, like, basically canceling this while a civil war rages in the MAGA world over Trump's decision to disavow conspiracies that has most ardent supporters stoked about Epstein being part of the deep state. The women who were victimized by the billionaires say their suffering is being sidelined by raw politics. Four of the victims spoke with NBC, say Trump administration should be exposing any powerful men who shared Epstein's penchant for vulnerable young women. Absolutely. There should be dozens of arrests, dozens, or at least trials so that victims can come forward and share their testimony to see if it overlaps with any other people's testimony. But instead, we have a divide and conquer as they pick off these people. You never really heal, said Danielle, sorry, who was a budding ballerina when she said Epstein abused her for 2 decades. And with what's happening now, it feels like we're being erased. All the brave women who came forward, all the work that we did to tell the world what happened to us, it's all being erased. Well, we already knew that from the get go because they never notice how with Diddy, we got all the details, right? And it still ended in nothingness. But with the Epstein thing, it was everything was hidden. We didn't get to hear any names of prominent politicians, judges, actors, actresses. None of that came out. The victim spoke with NBC recently as Trump tried to mollify supporters angered by the U.S. Attorney Pam Bondi's announcement that the client list that she claimed to have on her desk did not exist. Wow. So let me go back into the chat and then we're going to drop the bomb on a prominent tennis star who was underaged when she dated Trump. And Trump tried to bring her into the casino. Now, some internet sleuths put it all together, put together the evidence of what was claimed, and they realized that it could only be one person who they were speaking about, where Trump and Epstein tried to bring her into a casino even though she was underage. Now, the problem with this is we're going back in time decades, right? So you're going to get only bits and pieces of the story. But let's take a look, you guys. Now, I remember this tennis star because I used to follow tennis during these years. Ex-casino boss claims Trump and best friend Epstein were once caught bringing underage girls to the casino floor. So now everything's coming out, or a lot of it anyway. Former executive at Trump's Atlanta casino uh, told CNN that the duo brought 3 girls into the gambling floor who were not yet 21. Now, they weren't underage, but they weren't old enough to gamble. White House, of course, says it's fabricated. Now, when you read through this, the person actually, this casino boss, literally says that it was a ranked tennis player. And when people did the math back in 1983, it had to have been Sabatini, who basically Trump dated in 83. So the timelines match up. Likely she was the only ranked female tennis player that was in Trump's proximity during these years. Wow. He says, in my mind, Epstein was his best friend, throughout the time I was there for 4 years, O'Donnell said in the interview, noting that the pair frequently came to Trump's casino together. One alleged instance stood out to the former casino boss. He claimed that one night in the late 80s, Trump and Epstein visited Trump Plaza with 3 women, brought them onto the casino floor despite them being under 21. O'Donnell said he found out about the incident the following day when state casino commission inspectors were waiting for him in the office. Now understand that even though Trump owns these casinos, there is a very stringent process for this stuff, and it's very controlled environment. They have casino commission inspectors, make sure everything's on the up and up. An inspector, it seems, had identified one of the girls with Trump and Epstein as the number 3 ranked tennis player in the world, and that was Sabatini. Now, the article doesn't say it was Sabatini, but down here in the comments section, they expose this. Wow. So now the plot thickens. More confirmation. Epstein's former model girlfriend claims disgraced financier and sex offender was once best friends with Trump. Now, Trump tries to distance himself from Epstein. He never ever says that we were like best friends, but all the people that were around these groups knew that they were running buddies. Like, there are some people in my past that I don't particularly hang out with now. But if someone were to ask me point blank, I would say, yeah, that was a different period in my life. I was best friends with that person, right? You don't try to lie about it because you know there's a record of it. So this lady here, former model girlfriend, says they were best friends. They were up to no good. Now, she was probably up to no good either, but she's telling us the truth about what was going on, right? Stacey Williams, they were best friends. She dated Epstein for several months in the 90s. Williams publicly accused Trump of groping her in Trump Tower in 93 in front of Epstein. He denied these allegations. Now, we all have heard these stories before, but no one wanted to believe it because of the right left paradigm. Oh, that was just a story that the left made up to go after Trump, right? This is how they get away with this stuff. And this lady says that was his bro, that was his wingman. Wow. Now, what happened in this incident? Well, I had to look into it because I had forgotten what was said back then. But apparently, Epstein took this woman to Trump Tower to introduce her. And then Trump was like all over her, like groping her, or so it is alleged. And then when they left, Epstein like got mad at her and told her, "Why did you let him do that?" This is all in the story here. And she was like confused. And she was like, "I thought that that's what you wanted me to do." And he's like, "No." And it was just some kind of mental mind game, like gaslighting, or so she says. Now, what's weird, what gives a story some credibility, because anyone can make up anything, right? But what gives this story some credibility is why would she come up with that scenario? Wouldn't she just say, "Oh, he took me over there and I got groped and Epstein laughed about it"? Why would she add that little thing at the end, right? So that tells you she might be telling the truth. Now, watch this. Nancy Pelosi is now defending Trump on this. Pelosi, Epstein controversy is a distraction. Wow. It's almost as though the left doesn't want the left to pile on. They just want us to say, "Oh, okay. Yeah, we knew that this was about Trump, but let's just let it go. No big deal. We knew he was like this. But, it's just, this is just a distraction." As many Democrats call for the release of the files, uh, Nancy Pelosi urged caution in a Thursday morning interview. I wonder if she's in the files. This is a distraction. We have major issues right here, things we're voting on today. Wow. His own base has its own views of what the president should do. I'll leave it up to them to talk them out. So putting the left to sleep on this. The rescissions package claws back some $9 billion in public media funding and overseas aid. The House signed off on them. So they're talking about politics. Now, she's got kind of a point to this, but the thing is the files need to be released. And you got to ask yourself, why aren't the Democrats piling on at this point? I mean, if there was ever a reason to truly go after a president, this would be it, right? This would be the instance, a cover up that makes the president essentially incompetent or unable to perform his duties because of blackmail or whatever. That was the whole story on this, wasn't it? Now, here's Durbin. Now, don't fall into the right left paradigm because I'm showing you both sides of this. I'm showing you how the left even is not doubling down on this, right? So don't go, "Oh, that's CNN, Casey, or that's this, or that person's a Democrat and this." No, I'm showing you the whole picture. Durbin says the FBI agents were told to flag Epstein records that mention Trump. I mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show. Durbin says he has received information that Attorney General Pam Bondi pressured 1,000 FBI personnel to comb through the tens of thousands of pages and to flag any mention of Trump. Now, why would they do that? Wouldn't they just say, "Okay, let's look for everything"? Why are they doubling down on just the Trump stuff? Durbin made the explosive allegations in letters he sent Friday to Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino, seeking more information about the administration's handling of files related to Epstein and asking why senior officials were allegedly focused on looking for documents connecting Trump to Epstein. Citing information my office received, Durbin said Bondi pressured the FBI to put approximately 1,000 personnel in its information management division on 24-hour shifts to review about 100,000 Epstein related records as part of a broader effort to release documents publicly by what Durbin called an arbitrarily short deadline. Now, the way to do this is you scan the documents and then you use a finder to word search, right? That's how you would do this. I don't know why they make this so complicated. You don't need to pour through hard copy documents. You just scan them all. And then you can use optical character recognition to do a word search on Trump. Now, if this stuff, the technology is not perfect, but that's going to be a lot easier and faster than all this. Unbelievable. Now, before we finish up with the rest of the stories today, let me go back into the chat. And this is why people are upset, you guys. It's simple. Of all the hundreds, if not thousands of victims, our government wants us to believe that only two people, Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, were the only two people involved. Of all the evidence collected, they want us to believe that they were the only two people involved. There haven't been any other arrests. And this is why people are beginning to believe that Trump was somehow involved. Because who in their right mind would try to cover something like this up unless you were involved? Now, here's the deeper, darker secret that both sides, the Republicans and the Democrats, were all involved in this. And they're all working together to cover it up. And that should send alarm bells ringing to the American public. Now, some people say, well, that would destroy our government. Well, guess what? If we're doing stuff like this, the highest levels of government, it needs to be exposed no matter what the cost. So Trump says no more arrests. We're all done. Tens of thousands of pages of evidence. And no doubt there were probably dozens of people on camera, in pictures, names brought up, testimonies of the victims told to the police, all of that stuff, and it yielded nothing. Nobody was brought to justice. All we got were a couple of fall guys, not to say that they were innocent. Obviously, they weren't. They were running the whole thing. But this should have yielded hundreds or at least dozens of arrests of high level people. There were hundreds of names in the black books. There were hundreds of people that flew on the plane. Literally, the plane that was named after an abused girl, a Lolita. And I wouldn't doubt that there weren't a few murders or missing persons attached to this as well. Some girls who maybe decided to talk, and maybe back then these perps were much more emboldened to be able to disappear some people, throw them out of a plane. You know, it's alleged that the Lolita Express was a special kind of jet that could be opened, the door could be opened in mid-flight. So all they do is fly over shark-infested waters and dump somebody off far away from a shipping lane, and they drown or get eaten by sharks. Wow. This wasn't a Democrat hoax, because if it was, the Democrats would have used it to win the last election, wouldn't they have? They could have easily pulled this cat out of the bag when they had the House and the Senate and the presidency. They could have easily pulled this out and exposed the whole thing. This is a cover up of our government to the highest levels. And I think we're all starting to realize this, which makes Trump a liar, which we already knew he was, but this is more evidence. Now, more proof of this, Ghislaine Maxwell's sitting in jail. Now, if you were sitting in jail and you knew that there were a bunch of people that you could expose to get yourself out of jail, and you knew there was a president who you thought was honest, which he's obviously not and was involved, Wouldn't you start talking? Wouldn't you start talking and try to strike a deal to get your sentence reduced? Wouldn't that mean something? Absolutely, it would. Now, she had her chance at the trial. She could have struck a deal, couldn't she have? She could have started talking. I mean, she obviously knows a lot of information. But instead, she decided to just go to jail. I don't buy that. I feel like she wasn't able to talk. There was no deal because they knew that if she talked, that it would be scorched earth. So someone is preventing her from talking, if she's even in jail to begin with. I have my doubts about all that. I think they put a double, or they have a double actress, and they do these, these photo ops to make it look like she's in jail, but really she's not. And they're just biding their time to where they can figure all this out so these people can walk around in plain sight. Now, what I'm going to say next is going to blow your mind, because I believe that Trump wasn't just attached to Epstein, but I believe he was at the very core of the trafficking. You guys, it was Trump who had the modeling agencies and the beauty pageants during those years. He had access to foreign girls with no identities and aspiring models who would do whatever it took to be around all that wealth. Trump was close with another known pedo. We covered this a long, long, long time ago. John Casablancas. And when I say known pedo, is because John was on record, literally publicly said some very cringy things about the young girls that he modeled. And after he said those words, Trump put John Casablancas in charge of his South American real estate empire. So it's not like he didn't know. He also sent Ivanka to study under him, knowing what this dude was about. It was tantamount to sending his daughter to be under Epstein. It was almost the same thing. Now, if you don't know about John Casablancas, you got to look him up. That's a whole rabbit hole. But you could read his own quotes about what he said about the young girls and it's cringy. Even in back then standards. So I believe that we're only seeing echoes of a much larger and deeper conspiracy here. I believe Trump was the kingpin of New York and Epstein was the Florida chapter. It was all about models and passports and flying in jets into international space where the rules are much looser. Hidden identities, lost identities, traffic, espionage, murder, the whole thing. Now, these are just my beliefs. I don't know this to be true. But when you look at all the evidence and the connections, it all seems to be there. Now, let's get into these last stories today. Good morning, everybody. What a mess. Remember the Iranian nuclear sites? Now they're saying only one of the three were destroyed. New U.S. assessment finds American strikes destroyed only one of the three Iranian nuclear sites. So that was a big nothing sandwich. Let's see this here. See what this has to say.
All right. A new U.S. assessment has found American strikes destroyed one of three Iranian nuclear sites. The other two were damaged, but the assessment finds that nuclear enrichment could resume in the next several months if Iran wants it to. This is according to officials familiar with this report. They also
We destroyed the sites. We didn't destroy the sites. Iran says the sites were destroyed, but the sites weren't destroyed. Now they've been destroyed. Now one of the three is destroyed. I mean, you can't make this up. This is why the Bible says there will be wars and rumors of wars.
Tell NBC News if this evaluation continues to be true and Iran doesn't agree to restart negotiations with the Trump administration on a nuclear deal, both the American and...
So we're right back where we started. But who suffers? All the people that got killed in this stuff, right? What a train wreck. Now, this is crazy. Check this story out. Scientists use DNA from 3 people to protect babies from rare disease. What? A pioneering IVF technique combining DNA from 3 people to protect the baby from a rare genetic disease has been used in Britain, leading to a healthy cohort of 8 babies with no sign of serious disease until the baby's head spun around and turned into a zombie and started eating the blood of the. No, I'm just kidding. That part's not it. 4 girls and 4 boys, including one set of twins, were born healthy after scientists used the treatment to prevent mothers with mutations in their mitochondrial DNA. So now they're messing with the genome. What the heck, you guys? Wow. And here's our last story. China's super soldier experiments disturbing. So now our CIA is now claiming that China were developing super soldiers. Let's listen to this video and laugh.
Eftimiadis, a professor at Penn State University who served 34 years in government, including as a senior intelligence officer in the
Look at
Defense
the face.
Intelligence Agency. He's also the author of Chinese Intelligence Operations. Great to have you here. So why aren't we doing more to fend off these Chinese hackers?
Why are we making our own super soldiers?
Are we only learning about it after the fact?
No, the United States has a very defensive posture in this regard. You know, we build bigger cyber walls. We put more into defending ourselves. But there's no cost for China to do these things. There's never any punitive action. So all the advantages are really on their side.
But doubling the number of cyber attacks, that's a pretty astounding number.
And that's
Well, they're talking about cyber attacks first, but then he gets into super. Let's read this. China's experimentation with creating super soldiers is a disturbing reality, according to a former senior intelligence officer in the Defense Intelligence Agency. Nicholas Eftimiades joined Elizabeth Vargas Reports following the comments from Senator Mark Warner on China trying to create enhanced soldiers, a practice right out of a science fiction film. They've been exploring this concept for a while, he said. Can they modify human behavior, human physiology to create, if you will, a more superior individual, physically as well as mentally? Now they know that they're doing all this ourselves, but they always have to blame China. That way it justifies their efforts to combat that. We need our own super soldiers because otherwise China's going to beat us. We're going to be overrun by super soldiers. Wow. And the sheep will just eat this stuff. And this is how they get away with all this. So, those were the headlines. I hope we were able to make some sense of all this. You really have to look at all the stories to develop a picture of what's actually going on. You got the Democrats defending Trump, Elon Musk flip-flopping back and forth. I mean, this is crazy, you guys. I think they're all on the list. Wow. I'll put links to everything that we covered today. Tomorrow, we'll probably do another blacklist re-upload. We're just going to kind of go through that, sprinkle that in to the daily shows. We'll intermix that in with the headlines shows. Now, I'm still waiting for the Smurfs movie. I'm trying to get a copy of the new Smurfs movie because I need to probably decode that as well. Trying to see what else is on deck here. We have a new Alien movie coming out as well, Alien Earth. So we're going to cover that at some point. And that's about all I have on deck so far, you guys. All right, I'm in the chat for a bit. I ain't on that list. Gosh, can you imagine? There's like everyone's on this list. All right. Robot army coming. Yep. Who got smurfed? All right. the Genius Act. Yeah, I've heard some grumblings about the Genius Act, that is standardization of CBDC, and that's going to segue us into, of course, the digital currency. That's to me, that's we've been talking about that. Some people are trying to connect that to the mark of the beast and stuff. Yes, absolutely. The digital currency is going to be eventually segued into the mark of the beast. They can't prevent buying and selling until they've removed cash from the table, right? Because otherwise people will just go around it and use cash. They can buy and sell anyway. They need the currency to be digital. That's the whole point of it. So yes, it's alarming, but we've been talking about that and now it's coming to pass and Trump has now pushed this through while everyone's distracted with all this other stuff. Unfortunately, people aren't afraid of digital currency for some reason. They don't understand the danger of blockchain technology, that it basically forms a digital ledger of every single transaction, buying and selling, obviously. And so people don't see any problem with this. They're eating this up. And this was the danger of the whole cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And I tried to warn people as soon as that like took off and started gaining traction, even early on in the his first presidency, I was telling people, do not feed into the crypto thing. Do not trade it. This is basically a testing ground for the coming digital currency. They created crypto and Bitcoin, not some random guy. And unfortunately, not enough people believed. And of course, MAGA took over and all that stuff. And they were pushing crypto, saying, oh, it's a freedom currency. I'm like, no, it's a slavery currency. But when you have this artificially generated truth cult, they're going to win because even the platforms, the social media platforms, and also the alt social media platforms really throttle this stuff. They push it. And so, unfortunately, the first thing people see when they start digging for truth is they go straight to the truth cults instead of taking a step back and going, why is this mainstream? Why is this truth mainstream? Why does this person have millions of subscribers? But yet this person over here is saying something much different and they only have this many subscribers. You see, this is the problem, is that social media is no longer what they want us to believe, that it's organic. It's about the furthest thing from organic. It's mind control is what it is. They tweak it behind the scenes, but they give you the illusion that it's organic and that it's random and that the people that are relevant rise to the top. This is why we fight relevancy every single day. And I know you guys get sick of me talking about it, but you guys, we have to talk about it because if we don't talk about relevancy and what that means and how messages get talked about and go viral, then we're going to lose, right? So we have to talk about it. It's the main thing that stops truth from ever getting out is relevance. So, and I know you guys do everything you can to counter that, but yeah, we've been talking about the CBDC. We've been talking about how Trump flip flopped on that. First, he said crypto was the largest threat to the dollar. Then he became the crypto king. We tracked all of that. He attended the Bitcoin conference and spoke on their behalf. And then at the beginning of his second term, he was like, we're all behind crypto. The whole thing was a setup from the beginning. And we never, ever wavered on that. I never, ever told you guys to buy cryptocurrency or trade it. Unfortunately, there were a lot of people that did who were in the truth, and even in our truth community. And I said, and I was like, I was angry about that. I'm like, why are you telling people to use crypto? That's just their training grounds. They're tracking all this stuff. So cash is untrackable. Our government hates cash, believe it or not. And that's the irony of, Trump's tweet. This tweet here, this is the irony of it. He hates cash. They hate cash because you can't track it. You can't track it. You can't really tax it if someone wants to hide it. What do you think this whole no tax on tip thing was about? Are you ready for this? You ready for your mind to get blown? You're not going to hear this anywhere. That was to collect more tax revenue on tips. What do you mean, Casey? That's the opposite of what it says. That's exactly it. Did you know that Tips is one of the largest amounts of money that our government does not get taxes on. Why? Because people don't report cash. You can look at the numbers. It's like, gosh, it was as low as 20% of tips were actually reported as income at one point. And every time they pass legislation to pretend to, you know, make it so people don't have to pay taxes on tips, those people then report that income, but then it's a big rope-a-dope because now you're in the system. The minute you report those tips on your income, you can never unreport them. Does that make sense? Because they have algorithms that actually look at all that. If you don't believe me, if you have a certain profession, let's say you're a hairdresser and you have a license and you made $50,000 one year. Oh, well, guess what? If the next year you only make $25,000, you're getting a letter from the IRS. And it says, your license says you were supposed to make this amount of money, but yet you only claimed this amount of money. So you owe us this in taxes anyway. Do you see how they rope-a-dope people? So the whole no tax on tip thing was to get more people to report their tip, to report their income. And guess what? Right now, you're not having to pay taxes on the first 25,000. But then what happens when a Democrat comes into power and they pull that off the table? And now you've already reported that your income, and now they're coming after you. This is what's happening. But people don't see it. It's pretty much the exact opposite of what they tell you they're doing is what they're really doing. They just dress it up. They put, what do they call it? Lipstick on a pig. So, can someone confirm this for me about the tips? A lot of places don't make you, if someone leaves a tip on the table and it's cash, and your restaurant you work at says you get to put that in your pocket, you're not going to report that. And the government knows this. You know, this whole trafficking thing that they were going to, oh, Trump's going after the trafficking. No. Most of that was focused on workers in the industry. We'll just put it that way, who never report their income because they're getting cash. They're like, ooh, we need to get that tax revenue. We need to force those people. What do you guys think OnlyFans is about? It's about putting you in the system and making you pay taxes on that industry. Everything is the opposite of what they tell us. Our government is a beast. It wants all the money it can. It wants you in their system. And it's not even about them wanting the money. It's about control. They don't want people operating outside the lanes, outside the boundaries, somehow getting over on something, right? Because they want to be able to mind control you. They don't want independent thought. They want you stuck in the system. So there's a little snapshot behind the scenes of what's really happening in governments. Yeah, everybody hit the like button, please. So what are your guys' thoughts on all that? Yeah, a lot of states, they only pay servers like $2 an hour. $2 an hour, and you live off of tips. Now imagine you're a server making $2 an hour. And you're getting probably, let's say you're getting $15,000 a year in tips, but you don't report that. Well, guess what? You're going to be like, "Oh, cool. Trump, no tax on tips. Now I can report my income. I can be legitimate. I can do the right thing." Well, big mistake. Well, I'm not telling you to break the law. What I'm telling you is you're now in their system. They now know. And next year, it's going to be different. Yep, they want us all in a box so they can keep us asleep. They want to be able to influence us. Now, it's funny how, these people flip flop. Joe Rogan now claiming he's so upset with Trump. Oh, I'm so upset. Well, Joe Rogan's at fault. He's the one at fault. Why? Because he told all supporters to support Trump. He picked the necessary evil, and all the people that went to Joe Rogan said, "Oh, hey, we got to do Trump. Otherwise, it's going to be Kamala Harris. Now, what could Joe Rogan have done? Well, he could have started a movement. He could have started the movement. What movement? The no voting movement in protest. No vote movement. Hashtag no vote movement. See, now when I say something like that, that's not going to go anywhere. I could say hashtag no vote movement because we already tried, didn't we? But only a few people listen, the people on this channel. Now you know that that would have been the best decision. But back then, you need really a person that has relevance and reach in order for these messages to be effective. Because we're over here just preaching to the choir, right? But when you really think, the people that can make a difference are these fake truth channels, but they never do. They just keep picking the necessary evil. Now, Joe Rogan knows this. He's not stupid. He knew Trump was all in with Epstein and all that. He knew all that. He saw the pictures and photos. He'd be a dummy to buy the official story that Trump was saying, oh, I distanced myself from him. Yeah, of course you did, because he was a hot potato and the whole thing was coming unglued. Of course you had to distance yourself from him. But that doesn't erase the fact that you were all in those files and on the planes. But did Rogan talk about any of that? No. That's what's called a fake truth channel. So now he comes after the fact so he can save face with his base. And now he's like, oh, I'm so upset that Trump won't release the files and talking all tough. Well, where was this toughness before the election? When you could have started a movement to not vote for either of these politicians because it's ridiculous. And then we have millions of less people going in, and it sends a real message that we're not going to believe their lies anymore. That we'd rather vote for our local plumber than we would for any of these people. That's the only way real change happens. So now you're starting to see the facade fall away. You're starting to see that the real change that could happen, we're not talking about showing up to protest and all this stuff and, making signs, handing out flyers. No, if you have a voice, you tell people the truth. The truth is, we've already tried voting. We were in a war for 20 years in Afghanistan across 3 or 4 presidencies. Nobody fixed it. Right? The military industrial complex, trillions of dollars. Everybody got rich. Right? Democrats acting like Republicans, Republicans acting like Democrats. The AI police state, we have predator drones flying on American soil. Why isn't Joe Rogan talking about any of this? We all know, but this is what the problem is, you guys. This is the problem. Nothing changes because we keep doing the same thing over and over again. And now social media is artificially creating fake truth channels that everyone follows because they're produced and they have funny guests on and interesting guests and they pretend to have a battle with the guest and nothing ever gets solved. So I love each and every one of you guys. For those of you that show up for real truth. And I'm not saying you shouldn't watch these people. I'm just saying, look at the fruit. What is actually being accomplished? Another elected president with more lies and more cover-ups is all that's been resulted out of this. So, all right, you guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Much love.